public sector, including national, regional, local government, and government entity, plays a major role in society. Effective government is very crucial in public sector as it can lead to better decision making and the efficient use of resources, as well as can help to strengthen accountability for the stewardship of those resources.
Therefore, in providing an effective governance in the public sector, the International Federation of Accountants (IFAC) and the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy recently issued a consultation draft for an international framework on good governance in the public sector. When we look, the definition of the governance based on the framework is defined as the arrangements, including political, economic, social, environmental, administrative, legal, and other arrangements put in place to ensure that the intended outcomes for the stakeholders are defined and achieved.
However, there are some challenges need to be faced by the public sector on regards to governance.
In this public sector governance, we will focus on the main issue that comes around it. So among the issue will be corruption. Corruption is one of the main issues that happen in the public sector governance. Public sector corruption can be referred as an exploitation or abuse of entrusted power that comes with a public office by a public officer for his or her own benefit and gain. Based on Transparency International 2009 Corruption Perception Index, Malaysia was ranked 51 out of 180 countries. This corruption involves bribery, exploitation, influence spending, nepotism, fraud, and embezzlement.
So today, we will interview Ms. Illiyina as one of Malaysia's representative of Malaysian citizens to ask about issue of corruption that currently happen in Malaysia. So Ms. Illiyina, as we know, corruption in Malaysia in public sector is quite high. In your opinion, why do you think that this corruption currently happen in Malaysia?
In my opinion, I believe that corruption happen in our government due to monopoly and descriptions of power. For example, citizen depends on police administrations for assuring one personal security or filing criminal cases. While providing such services, the official of respective department enjoy complete monopoly since no private or public departments offer such services to the citizen. Such monopoly is providing public service will create room for abusing power. For on other hand, low molarity of officer in the public sector may lead to corruptions, like lack of integrity, greed, selfishness, and lack of principle can influence on individual involved corruptions. We know that the very high official in government will receive high salary, but they are also being corrupted. We can see that the reason is on their behavior. That is my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Illiyina, for your opinion. So basically, what have been highlighted by Ms. Illiyina on the current issue, why does corruption happen in Malaysia, is because of those several reasons. First, because of the misuse of power in the government itself. Second, because of the low morality. So basically, that's all for our interview. Thank you.
Next, we will look into the impact on corruption to our society. Firstly, we can see on the government revenue and expenses. When the corruption happen, we can look on our infrastructure. For example, the quality of roads is reduced due to the corruption and bias into more in government expenditure. Next, we can see in terms of investment, increase in corruption actually result to the lower investment rate in one country. It will affect not only the private investment but also the FDI. Lastly is on economic growth. Corruption can cause the gross domestic product of one country to drop. Also, corruption can raise the inflation on the country. For example, in Malaysia, the GDP growth dropped by 1.96% and inflation increased by 2.2% due to the corruption.
Therefore, government have come up with several strategies in order to tackle the issue to curb corruption. And one of the strategies by establish a various type of institutional framework, such as the ACA, Anti-Corruption Agency in 1967 and MACC, Malaysia Anti-Corruption Commission in 2009. However, these institutional framework have their own drawback and become ineffective due to several reasons. One of the reasons due to the lack of political support and will. Secondly, due to the government itself unable to address the root cause of the corruption. Last but not least, due to the duplicate and redundancy in the institutional framework that become confusing to everyone. Therefore, government can come out with a different idea and new strategies in order to tackle the issue. For example, maybe government can establish a severe punishment to the offender by lengthening the period of the prisoner, and also maybe they can higher the penalty cost, or maybe government can try to balance the power in the Department of Government itself. For example, they can try to reduce the complexity in law and regulation and try to establish a transparency and accountability in the government public sector. And lastly, maybe they can try to give a chance to the private sector in order to provide same services that the public sector government provided to everyone.
Let us visit Bosnia and Herzegovina to see corruption in their country. Corruption in Bosnia and Herzegovina usually happens because of conflict of interest in business and politics, and also corruption among public officials. Corruption in economic conflict of interest can be seen when officials who have political and other connection with entrepreneurs tend to use their position in public office to protect the interests of the entrepreneur, especially those who work as a custom, where can be illustrated in Chart C, were highest among the rest. Besides, the incidence of bribery among public officials within public office is perceived to be strikingly high, as in 2015, all of the Bosnia Citizen Assembly are pushing for transparency on public sector spending. Finally, a common problem in all levels of government in regards to corruption is by receiving political payments in acting for support of political party or campaign. Therefore, businesses need to bear a cost in paying unofficial fees to the political party.
I am Atiya Azmi. We will continue our discussion on public financial management reform. From 2005 until 2015, Malaysia has used modified cash accounting for reporting of public sector entities. Effective 1 January 2016, Malaysia has implemented the accrual basis reporting for public sector entities, which include the federal, state and local government. This issue is aligned with the public sector transformation policy under the new economic model. Next, we are going to see the implementation of MPSAS, which is part of the transition towards accrual accounting. We will continue with our interview with Mr. X shortly.
Assalamualaikum, Mr. X. I am Atiya Azmi from IIUM. First of all, thank you for allocating your time for this interview.
Waalaikumsalam, my pleasure.
Alright, as we know, the adoption of MPSAS has its own set of challenges, especially in the early stages of developing it. Firstly, we had to get the law amended, correct?
Yes, the Financial Procedures Act 1957 was intended for the tabling of cash-based financial reports to the Parliament, so we had it superseded by the Financial Procedures Amendment Act 2014 to make way for the accrual basis.
Other than that, what were the processes to develop MPSAS in our country?
We had two committees set up. Firstly, the GASAC, where we have representatives from the State Treasury, MOF, Auditor General, MIA, MASB, ACCA, MICPA, CPA, and also academicians from higher learning institutions. These people will develop MPSAS, which are primarily drawn from IPSAS. And the second committee is the ACSC. This committee is headed by the Accountant General and will approve the MPSAS that have been decided on at GASAC meetings.
I see. So it was quite a lengthy and complicated process to come to where we are now, where we have 38 MPSAS, specially developed for our public sector accounting. Thank you again for your time, Mr. X.
You are welcome.
Transition to accrual accounting, its implementation and evaluation. The government invested 200 million ringgit in developing the new software. Training programs such as kursus perakaunan Accrual dan latihan IGFMAS were conducted to train civil servants in applying accrual-based reporting and on the usage of the new software. The software is centralized within a single database, integrated with other existing government systems such as e-services and e-perolehan, upgraded from SAP 4.7 to SAP HANA, harmonized to facilitate duality of reporting for both cash and accrual reports to be generated. To obtain the opening balance, we must get the complete list of assets owned by the federal government. Information about immovable assets maintained in the MySpata system and movable assets from the SPA system are leveraged to build the complete list. Materiality of assets is also a crucial concept. In Malaysia, the threshold for asset capitalization is set at 2,000 ringgit per line of assets, which is considerably low for billions of government total assets. As more items have to be capitalized, transition is made more difficult. Size and diversity of the government makes applying accounting standard more complicated. Similar items may have different treatments. For example, books and journals are normally an expense item, but if it is a public library, it is an asset. Therefore, it requires judgment to interpret the correct accounting treatment.
Implementation of accrual basis accounting for reporting for public sector entities is to address the limitations of the modified cash basis, where only cash and investments are recorded in the consolidated funds. Assets are not capitalized, liabilities are not reported. Therefore, it does not show the full picture of the financial position of the government. Accrual basis reporting will provide a more prudent picture of the financial position. It enhances transparency and accountability, and overall, it improves the efficiency and effectiveness of the government fiscal policy.
Now, let us fly to New Zealand to see their development in accrual accounting. The implementation of accrual accounting started in New Zealand along with the economic reforms when the government decided to increase accountability and profitability. Those changes began in the mid-1980s with the implementation of privatization and corporatization of government. After that, until 1989, budgeting practice was based on the cash accounting system. Then, with the approval of Finance Act 1989, the Government of New Zealand have amended the budgeting process into output-based system. As there is a demand for accrual accounting to be used in the whole budgeting and reporting, later in 1992, New Zealand had fully implemented accrual accounting by presenting its initial fully accrual-based comprehensive financial statements, being known as Crown Financial Statement. After implementing this accrual accounting, they have enjoyed moderate to high economic growth, with actual GDP growth averaging about 3.3% per annum over the last decade.
Lately, we can hear the topic of performance management and service qualities offered by public servant has received significant attention from general public and been discussed in various platforms and media. Reformation of performance management to reflect shared prosperity vision 2030 is demanded by the general public. In addition to that, the COVID-19 pandemic has further required critical reformation to the performance management of civil servants in order to ensure highest quality of service are delivered to the customers and general public. In order to achieve a good level of accountability and governance and excellence, performance management that comprises indicators based on smart criteria should be implemented in all levels of government agencies.
Assalamualaikum, sir. Sir, what is your view on performance management system in your organisation?
Penilaian prestasi ini penting untuk memperbaiki mutu kerja pada masa akan datang, serta sejauh mana keterlibatan penjawat awam dalam menjalankan dasar-dasar yang dibuat oleh kerajaan. Prestasi kerja perlu dinilai untuk melihat tahap pencapaian kerja tahunan kami semua. Oleh itu, penilaian berkala ini dapat membantu saya memperbaiki tugasan saya dari semasa ke semasa untuk meningkatkan tahap kecemerlangan kerja.
Okey, prestasi kerja kami dinilai 2 kali dalam setahun, iaitu pada pertengahan tahun dan juga akhir tahun. Saya berpendapat penilaian ini sebagai satu rutin yang dipertanggungjawabkan ke atas kami para guru. Penilaian ini secara tidak langsung menaikkan semangat kami dalam melaksanakan tugas-tugas yang dipertanggungjawabkan kepada kami, termasuklah tugas utama kami dalam sesi pengajaran dan pembelajaran dan juga tugas-tugas sampingan yang lain di sekolah. Penilaian ini juga penting untuk perkembangan kerja dan kenaikan pangkat pada masa hadapan. Walau bagaimanapun masih ramai guru yang tidak menyedari hakikat kepentingan penilaian tersebut terhadap prestasi kerja mereka kerana kurang pendedahan daripada pihak yang bertanggungjawab.
Despite of the extreme importance of performance management in public sector, there are many issues that are commonly found in the management of performance. First and foremost, lack of commitment shown by the top management and government workers. The top management do not emphasize the importance of performance management in the organization. In consequence, the workers show no or little interest in the performance management. In addition to that, the performance management of public servants is still lacking due to inadequate knowledge and skill possessed by them to maintain the system and set proper indicators to measure the performance. For example, the use of key performance indicators requires knowledge on how to set decent indicators that are achievable and in line with the organization's vision and mission. Therefore, proper understanding of the system is very crucial in performance management. Last but not least, the practice of current performance management is not effective because of performance evaluation bias toward certain workers. Top management give a good appraisal toward the workers that they are closer instead of objectively evaluating each worker based on the performance. Apart from that, Malaysian work culture is less outspoken and relatively uncomfortable to give real-time feedback, and criticism make the performance less effective. Performance management in Malaysian government agency has progressed on ongoing basis. The traditional performance management that is focused highly on input is now reformed to the contemporary performance management system that are based on input, output and outcome in order to increase the level of efficiency and effectiveness of the process of service delivery, human resource, financial productivity and customer satisfaction toward the service received. It is significantly emphasized by our 6th Prime Minister, Datuk Seri Najib. This is because the One Malaysia concept stress on people first, performance now. The latest 11 Malaysian Plan 2016 to 2020 also aimed at improving public service deliveries. This indicates the importance of good performance management in public sectors. Therefore, the management of performance in government agency need improvement. To manage and improve performance management in Malaysia government agency, frequent communication and discussion on performance need to be conducted in departmental and organizational level, either in formal meeting or informal discussion, in order to strengthen the commitment of all public servants. In addition, periodic review by experts on the system and indicators used are needed to enhance performance management efficiency. Lastly, ongoing training on performance management is a must.
Now, let us go to see the performance management in Indonesia. Prior to 1999, performance management was largely reflected in the allocation of budget. When the post-reformasi came in after the Asian financial crisis, the government had introduced legal reform process with the aim to achieve strong accountability on results provided to public and parliament, empowering transparency in government transaction, and encouraging competent managers to achieve maximum performance. Then, the new performance reporting system have been implemented by the government, which is the accountability report of the performance of governmental institutions, or known as Zulaikha, in order to evaluate the accomplishment of performance objectives and targets through many levels of government. Recently, with the current reform of the bureaucracy, which is reformasi bureaucracy, they had aimed to improve government efficiency around the board, combating corruption, enhancing public services, and improving accountability and productivity of government bureaucracy.
In conclusion, good governance will reflect the reality of transparency, accountability, leadership, political integrity, stewardship, where it needs to be applied in all levels of government. By having this good governance, it can help to prevent misuse of power and position, corruption, waste of resources, ineffective distribution, and can uphold a better management in public sector.